We're back on WKYT News. A runway at LaGuardia Airport in New York reopened today, days after a deadly runway crash.
A plane collided with a fire truck on the runway late Sunday night. The plane's pilot and co-pilot were killed. Dozens of people were hurt.
Investigators say the fire truck involved did not have equipment needed to trigger the runway's warning system. Here in Lexington, as WKYT's Samantha Valentino explains, Bluegrass Airport's fire trucks also do not have that equipment, but they hope to soon.
A transponder is a device that sends radio signals to air traffic control radar systems. They allow controllers to track vehicles' positions in real time at airports. The FAA only encourages transponders on ground vehicles, but NTSB Chair Jennifer Homendy says she feels they should be required.
If you're an air traffic controller, you should be able to see everything that's on the ground, everything that's in the immediate airspace, so you can ensure safety.
Because they're not required, it's not uncommon for ground vehicles at airports not to have transponders. For example, here at Bluegrass Airport, they tell me their vehicles don't have them, but they are working towards getting them.
We are on the list to be a part of that technology in the air traffic control tower. And then once that occurs, we would work towards a plan to have transponders in any vehicles and equipment even that are on the airfield.
Lauren Zimmerman with Bluegrass Airport says it's not something that can happen overnight, and the airport is working with the FAA to make it happen. The airport also has a large fleet of vehicles contributing to how long the process can take.
It's not as though it's, been in existence for 30 years and we just haven't implemented it. It's a newer initiative that airports are working towards.
Even though they don't have transponders, Zimmerman says crews at the airport are able to effectively communicate with one another.
These transponders, are not the only key to insight as far as traffic of vehicles on the airfield. It would just be an added layer to safety. The air traffic control tower is in charge of kind of the oversight of the movement of any vehicles that are on the airfield. That's controlled via communication on a two-way radio.
Zimmerman says anyone operating equipment or vehicles on the airfield also undergo thorough and regular training to ensure everyone stays safe. In Lexington, Samantha Valentino, WKYT.